Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. So, when you start really diving into things, you get asked questions. And a lot of times you get hit with some banger of a question that just kind of makes you sit back and be like, okay, I got to reassess how I'm presenting material. And so I got hit with this question about, okay, I've been to therapists, I've been to spiritual healers, I've searched on the internet, I've admitted all my things, but like no one can tell me how to heal. Everyone says heal, let go, heal, let go, heal, let go, but there's no instructional manual. Well, that got me thinking, okay, well, how does one heal? So if I heal from an injury, right? If I tear my biceps or I tear my quad, what do I need to do? Well, you got to rest and nutrition, etc. But, healing emotional wounds takes time. And I think that, our first reaction is go on medicine or, go to therapy. And though those things have value and I have done those things, I think the most important first step when it comes to healing is the forgiveness of yourself. So it can be difficult to forgive other people because we're in such an egoic mindset of, well, the reason why this happened to me was because of you, right? Particularly when you're in relationship trauma or, your parental unit and something happened in that, child parental unit, etc. You can paint the picture of how grim some of these situations can be. It's so easy for us to sit back, play the victim, and point the finger. But as I've said 1,000 times, it doesn't have to be your fault to be your responsibility. So it can be very difficult to look at another person and say, I forgive you. Though that would be the ultimate test of our healing. The first step has to be with us. And beginning to forgive ourselves for any situation or any implication that we may have put ourselves in. What I find when I coach clients, when they have guilt and shame and anger, which are just smoke screens for just being hurt, okay? Anger is a secondary emotion. We get angry when we're hurt or when we're challenged or when our ego comes into question. We get mad, we get angry. No different if you're driving down the road and the car cuts you off. First reaction is to be like, hey, you, fuck you, buddy. We've all done that. Hell, I did that the other day, right? But that's just a secondary emotion, right? When we go through relationships with people, they break up with us, they cheat on us, they whatever, fill in the blank. It's so easy for us to just, be angry towards them. But then that guilt and that shame sets in with us is because we think about, well, what could I have done differently? Or, did I not do something that I should have done? And we get into this shoulda, woulda, coulda game, which is never healthy because it just puts us in a position of trying to change the past when we can't. So that first step has to be forgiveness of ourselves. And I think that, when people have made mistakes, we whatever the mistake is, just your definition of what a mistake is. Whether you cheated on your partner or, your partner cheated on you and now you're blaming yourself because, they went off with somebody else and you're like, what could have I done back in that coulda, shoulda, woulda game? Being able to say that, we're human and have compassion for ourselves. How could we ever have compassion for other people at the level that we would truly need it if we don't have that compassion and that forgiveness for ourselves? So no matter what position, whatever the situation may be, finding it beneficial to forgive yourself. Now, I'll give you an example of what does that take. Well, I had a therapist that did this really cool exercise with me, and I even use this sometimes in my coaching business, but she told me to write a letter to my 18-year-old self. And given the information, the knowledge that I had at 30, whatever, talk to that 18-year-old kid. Give that 18-year-old kid advice and tell that 18-year-old kid that you forgive him for all of the transgressions, the mistakes, and the things that you've been holding over your head at 30, whatever. Talk to that 18-year-old kid. And that was a very therapeutic message for me. And I realized that the forgiveness of whatever implication that I put myself in, it a lot of times, in society, we're self-sacrificial because we feel like we have to be, but we don't. We don't have to sacrifice ourselves for the betterment of the world, because it's really about the betterment of us and learning to have some sort of forgiveness for ourselves in any role we may have played. And this just isn't about a mistake that we made. I find it very common when people are going through abuse as a child, they oftentimes, will turn the other corner and be like, well, I shouldn't have been here at this position, or I shouldn't have done this, or I should have spoke up. So then, therefore, there is some type of guilt and shame associated with it, even though it had nothing to do with them. They had no control. But yet there's still that lack of forgiveness and compassion that they give for themselves. Learning how to do that first is the most important part when it comes to healing, because forgiveness is rooted in our biology. When we start to forgive, our brain produces serotonin, which is our mood elevator. It increases our happiness. It's the reason why antidepressants are given out, supposedly, is to, rewire the chemistry of our brain. But when we can give that to ourselves, if we learn to forgive ourselves for whatever it is that we're holding over our head, no matter what it is, no matter how small it is, whether it's mom guilt, parent guilt, dad guilt, forgive it. Lend compassion to yourself. Take responsibility for it. It doesn't condone the action. It doesn't, just magically make it disappear. But at least what it does is allow for you to move forward with a clean slate and whatever. Now, you may wanting to rebuild a relationship that, you did something too that you felt like is what, created the rift between you and another person. And that person may not accept it. They may not be in the forgiving state. You know what? That's something that we have to accept. But apply that same principle as it comes to yourself. You're not forgiving yourself. So how do you ever expect to heal from a traumatic situation? That's the first stop. And it can be difficult. It can be really difficult because we're often not taught these things. How do we forgive ourselves, right? But really being able to get on that energetic level and understand your role that you played and have compassion towards you and taking responsibility